Ayer dio inicio y se llevó a cabo la conferencia más esperada dentro del Campus Party México. Esta reunión anual que convoca a los geeks, amantes de la tecnología y internet de todo México, y que este año llega a su tercera edición. La reunión tuvo como protagonistas invitados a los fundadores de internet, a los creadores de esta jungla en el que todo el mundo viene a saciar su ocio. Por eso la relevancia de esta reunión. Ahí se tocaron temas variados, desde el futuro de las redes sociales hasta el ciberactivismo, y de paso rompieron varios mitos sobre lo que significa internet, un lugar que, advierten, buscan censurarlo. Ante miles de capuceros, los padres de internet se sentaron a dialogar sobre el futuro del internet y las nuevas tecnologías. Sera, creador del protocolo TCP/IP, Tim Berners, el creador del World Wide Web, o mejor conocido como el WWW, y Albert Al Gore, el Premio Nobel de la Paz, recordaron por qué crearon el internet y con qué propósito. Nos recordaron también que más allá de los cables, de los bits, las máquinas, internet está compuesto por personas, y que esto ha sido el verdadero motor para que este mecanismo tenga una explosión impresionante y sea la expresión de libertad y democracia más representativa que exista en el mundo. La conferencia tuvo sus matices entre motivadora y informativa, pero sin duda se tocó uno de los temas más polémicos que existen actualmente en internet: la delgada línea que hay entre la libertad de internet y su regulación. Saber hasta dónde se puede y se debe defender la libertad sin dañar las creaciones que diariamente internet nos ofrece. Es decir, ¿qué tanto está dispuesto usted a pagar o no en internet? ¿Cree que el esfuerzo de una persona o de una mente para crear contenido para usted debe ser gratis? Polémico, ¿no? Para los que pudimos seguir la transmisión de la conferencia remotamente, pudimos ver cómo este tema se tornó sensible, pero para los campuseros mucho más. En cuestión de segundos se multiplicaron los tweets y reacciones en internet cuando se estaban abordando estos temas. Los expositores se enfrentaban ante la multitud y su discurso no podía ser tan rudo o tan directo, pero sí expresaron su preocupación y la urgencia de hacer un equilibrio entre los creadores de contenidos en internet y los derechos que tienen de sus creaciones. Para Al Gore, el Premio Nobel de la Paz y ex candidato a la presidencia de Estados Unidos, es el expositor más político y menos técnico. Para él, internet ha sido un medio que ha permitido para muchos mortales, como usted o como yo, que no tienen esa facilidad de incursionar en los medios masivos tradicionales, generar sus propios contenidos, como este, y de mayor calidad, e incluso generar un modelo de negocio altamente atractivo. Por eso la urgencia, según Al Gore, de proteger estos nuevos creaciones y tener sus propios derechos, porque si no, se inhibirían estas mentes. Para hacer, la respuesta no está en los derechos de autor, sino en hacer de internet un lugar seguro para hacer contenidos y hacer negocios. Incluso propuso crear un nuevo modelo en el que se puedan juntar desarrolladores y abogados para crear este sistema que pueda compaginar a los dos. En fin, para el último, y a mi consideración el más convincente de todos, fue Berners-Lee. Internet, según Berners-Lee, es un lugar donde se convoca a toda la gente para conocer la verdad, lo que pasa, lo que se consume y se dice, lo que le da el verdadero valor a una democracia, porque miles de personas buscan en quién y a quién creerle. Por eso las cuestiones de derechos de autor de una canción se vuelven intrascendentes frente a todos los cambios que se generan diariamente en internet. Según las palabras de Berners-Lee, estos cambios deben crear un sistema que facilite a los creadores de contenidos un ingreso por sus creaciones, sin tener que restringírsela a nadie. Es decir, hacerles llegar la lana a los verdaderos creadores de internet. La polémica seguirá por mucho tiempo más. Pocos negocios en internet han conseguido ser redituables sin vender su contenido o sin restringir sus páginas. Y hay contenidos que valen mucho la pena como para dejarlos morir. La polémica radica en que hay algunos que se empeñan en seguir manteniendo el mismo modelo de negocio de siempre, los mismos privilegios sin querer innovar. Y estos son los que están satanizando el llamado derechos de autor. Y peor aún, están radicalizando sus posturas. ¿A qué me refiero con estos? Las industrias cinematográficas y las disqueras, más que nada. En conclusión, en el mundo real como en el mundo digital, lo barato sale caro. Y ya debemos de pensar que si queremos disfrutar algo de calidad en Internet, debe existir un método que permita acercarnos a los verdaderos creadores sin coartar la libertad ni criminalizar el uso de sus creaciones.
Of Google, Facebook, Yahoo. I mean, are you talking to them?
Well, I tried to. I had a brief conversation with Larry Page in which he said, well, I don't think this is a very interesting problem, and that was about that. But further down in Google, there are a bunch of people who are wrestling with this. I think the challenge is, I talked to one Facebook engineer who sort of summed it up quite well, and he said, look, what we love doing is sitting around and coming up with new, clever ways of getting people to spend more minutes on Facebook, and we're very good at that. And this is a much more complicated thing that you're asking us to do, where you're asking us to think about sort of our social responsibility, our civic responsibility, what kind of information is important. This is a much, more complicated problem. We just want to do the easy stuff. And, I think that's what's sort of led us to this current place. I think there are also people who see the flip side of that and say, this is one of the big, juicy problems in front of us, is how do we actually take the best of sort of 20th century editorial values and import them into these new systems that are deciding what people see and what people don't see.
Talk about how much money is being made off of this. And I mean, just this neutral term of personalization.
Right.
It sounds so benign. In fact, it sounds attractive.
It sounds great.
It's geared and tailored for you. What could be better?
Right. And it does rely on the sense of a sort of cozy, familiar world online where your favorite website greets you and goes, oh, hey, Eli, we've teed up all of these articles for you. Welcome. It feels very good. But, what's driving this is, in some ways this is the driving struggle on the internet right now between all of these different companies to accumulate the biggest amounts of data on each of us. And Facebook has its strategy, which is basically ask people to tell Facebook about themselves. Google has its strategy, which is to watch your clicks. Microsoft and Yahoo have their strategies. And all of this feeds into a database, which can then be used to do three things. It can target ads better, so you get better targeted ads, which honestly I think, sometimes is fine if you know that it's happening. It can target content, which I think is much more problematic, that you start to get content that just reflects what it thinks you want to see. And then the third thing is, and it can make decisions about you. So one of the sort of more surprising findings in the book was that banks are beginning to look at people's Facebook friends and their credit ratings in order to decide to whom to offer credit. And this is based on this fact that, if you look at the credit ratings of people, you can make predictions about the credit ratings of their friends. It's very creepy, though, because really what you're saying then is that it would be better not to be Facebook friends with people who have lower credit ratings. That's not really the kind of society that we want to be building particularly.
Well, even more frightening, obviously, is once all of this information, personal information, is gathered, it saves the government and its ability to surveil its population a lot of work, because basically the private companies can gather the information, and all the government has to do is issue the subpoena or make the call that for national security we need this information. So in essence, it doesn't have to do the actual surveillance. It just has to be able to use it when it needs to.
There's a funny Onion article that has the headline, CIA rolls out very successful new Facebook program, implying that the CIA started Facebook to gather data. And it's funny, but there is sort of some truth there, which is that these companies do have these massive databases, and the protections that we have for our data that live on these servers are far less protection than if it's on your home computer. The FBI needs to do much less paperwork in order to ask Google for your data than it does to come into your home and look at your computer. And so increasingly, so this is sort of the downside of cloud computing, is that it allows more and more of our data and everything that we do to be available to the government and for their purposes.
In a democracy, but it's in an authoritarian state as well.
That's right. I mean, it's a natural byproduct of consolidating so much of what we do online in a few big companies that really don't have a whole lot of accountability. That aren't being pushed very hard by governments to do this right or do it responsibly. It'll naturally lead to abuses.
Google Inc. announced yesterday that they have launched a bid to dominate a world in which the smartphone replaces the wallet as the container for credit cards, coupons, and receipts. The mobile app is called Google Wallet. How does this fit into this picture?
Well, it's just another, the way that Google thinks is, how can we design products that people will use that allow us to accumulate even more data about them? So obviously, once you start to have a sense of everything that people are buying flowing through Google's servers, then you have way more data on which to target ads and target content and do this kind of personalization. You know exactly how to slice and dice people. And again, in some contexts, that's fine, actually. I don't mind, when I go on Amazon and it recommends books. They're obviously not very good recommendations sometimes, but it's fine. But when it's happening invisibly and when it's shaping not just what you buy, but what you know about the world, I think, is more of a problem. And if this is going to be sort of the way that the future of the internet looks, then we need to make sure that it's much more transparent when this is happening, so that we know when things are being targeted to us. And we have to make sure that we have some control as consumers over this, that it's not just in the hands of these big companies that have very different interests. So
you have a powerful force, Eli Pariser. You were the head of MoveOn.org. Now you're the chair of the board of MoveOn.org. So this MoveOn has millions of people it reaches all over the country. What will MoveOn do about this?
Well, there's sort of this dance here, because basically MoveOn takes on the issues that its members, want to take up. So I've been very careful. I don't want to sort of impose by fiat that I wrote a book and here's